Hello Marvel fans, comic geeks, and all the nerds in between. My name is Megan, and I am here with Vigilante Vibes, which is just me. So I'm Megan of Vigilante Vibes, and I am here to break down another character. She is one of my favorite mutants of all time, and I just feel like her story doesn't get talked about enough. Is she underrated? I don't think so. Is her story underrated? I think so. So let's talk about Kitty Pryde. Kitty Pryde first appeared in Uncanny X-Men number 129 and was created by Jonathan Claremont and John Byrne. Catherine Pryde was born in Deerfield, Illinois, to Carmen and Teresa Pryde. Years later, a bizarre hologram tied to Operation Zero Tolerance claimed that baby Catherine had actually been kidnapped by a Neo and replaced with another infant who would grow up to be Kitty Pryde, known as an X-Man. By that time, the X-Men had seen so many similar holographic mind games that they decided to ignore it, believing it was just another attempt to mess with them. Growing up, Catherine Ann Kitty Pryde lived a pretty normal life for a super genius 13-year-old in Deerfield until she started suffering from incredibly and painful headaches. These headaches turned out to be her mutant power manifesting. Kitty could phase through solid objects. Professor Charles Xavier eventually tracked her down and tried to recruit her for his school, possibly even the X-Men. At the same time, the inner circle of the Hellfire Club learned about Kitty, and Emma Frost, the White Queen, personally went to invite her to the Massachusetts Academy. While hanging out at a local malt shop with some of the X-Men, Kitty started bonding with Storm, beginning a friendship that would last for years. That peaceful moment did not last long. Hellfire Knights stormed the shop under Emma Frost's command, overpowering the X-Men and taking them prisoner. Refusing to abandon them, Kitty secretly stowed away in the Hellfire Club's hovercraft and followed them to Frost International. There, Storm gave Kitty the X-Men's emergency number and told her to get help. Phoenix, Cyclops, and Nightcrawler arrived just in time to save Kitty from the Hellfire mercenaries, and Phoenix comforted her afterwards. Kitty then helped rescue the rest of the captured X-Men. Back home, her father, Carmen, was furious at Xavier for putting his daughter in danger, and Phoenix used her telepathy to forcibly calm him down. Despite everything, Kitty's parents eventually allowed her to enroll in Xavier's school for gifted youngsters. She officially became the newest X-Man and threw herself into training. In her very first Danger Room session, she casually walked through a scenario that had taken Xavier weeks to design. Storm gave her the codename Sprite and took her to dance lessons at Stevie Hunter's studio. Kitty quickly developed a crush on Colossus, though she was still uneasy about Nightcrawler's demon-like appearance. In a possible future 30 years ahead, Rachel Summers sent the adult Kate Pryde's consciousness back to her teenage body. The plan was for Kate to warn the X-Men about the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants' assassination attempt on Senator Robert Kelly and prevent the dystopian future from happening. While the X-Men did save Kelly, Kate returned to her own time only to discover she created an alternate timeline instead of changing her own. Not long after, Kitty found herself on one dangerous adventure after another. On one Christmas Eve, she single-handedly defeated a demon while alone in the mansion. Later, she was nearly kidnapped by the Morlock Caliban, who just wanted a friend and eventually returned underground. On another mission she snuck onto, Magneto nearly killed her, an act that forced him to confront how far he'd fallen. Kitty's parents later pulled her out of Xavier's and enrolled her in the Massachusetts Academy. When Storm brought Kitty there, Emma Frost switched bodies with her, but Kitty, Storm, in Emma's body, and the X-Men defeated the Hellfire Club yet again, and Kitty returned to Xavier's school. When Colossus's younger sister Ileana was kidnapped by Velasco, the X-Men followed into Limbo. Kitty was harassed by an alternate Nightcrawler there, but was rescued. During their escape, Kitty briefly lost her grip on Ileana through a portal, but managed to grab her again. Because of the time distortion in Limbo, Ileana returned as a 13-year-old instead of the young child. She and Kitty became extremely close, even becoming roommates and taking dance lessons together. When the alien brood implanted embryos in the X-Men, Kitty met Lockheed, a small dragon-like alien who became her loyal companion. While the X-Men were in space, Xavier formed the New Mutants and tried moving Kitty onto the team, calling her way too young for combat. Furious, Kitty nicknamed them the X-Babies. She proved herself by defeating 2 Sidri with Lockheed's help, earning her spot back on the X-Men permanently. Kitty and Peter, who is Colossus, slowly grew closer and eventually started dating, though they'd struggled with differences in faith and Kitty's anger over her parents' divorce. During a confrontation with Dracula, Kitty was temporarily possessed by Lilith and attacked Storm and Colossus before being freed when Dracula was defeated. See, the whole Kitty and Colossus thing is weird. It's weird. Colossus went to her house with Xavier to bring her into Xavier's mansion, to his school, and she was a young girl. She was like 14. He was not 14. So that whole thing was just uncomfortable. But anyways, when the Morlocks kidnapped Angel, Kitty promised Caliban she would marry him in exchange for saving Peter and the X-Men while she was dying from the plague. She later broke that promise and returned to the team, dropping the codename Sprite and briefly using Ariel instead. After Colossus was frozen during a battle with the Brotherhood, Kitty was kidnapped by Callisto, who intended to force her to honor her promise to Caliban. Caliban ultimately released her willingly, and Colossus was saved. Kitty grew close to Doug Ramsey and hacked Project Wide Awake files with him, which strained her relationship with Peter. When Doug invited her to the Massachusetts Academy, Kitty went believing Emma Frost was in a coma, only for both of them to be captured by Emma. After being rescued, Colossus broke up with Kitty, which is probably for the best. Kitty later bonded deeply with Wolverine, who became her mentor. Following her father to Japan, Kitty was captured by the Ogun, who brainwashed her into believing she was his daughter and trained her as a ninja. Wolverine eventually rescued her, retraining her body to watch her mental conditioning and helping her reclaim her agency. Kitty took the codename Shadowcat and confronted Ogun. Though overwhelmed at first, Wolverine ultimately defeated him, and Kitty reclaimed the innocence Ogun had stolen. From there, Kitty rescued Power Pack, battled the Beyonder, helped defeat Arcade's murder world, fought alongside Excalibur, survived demonic invasions, lost Ileana to the Legacy virus, briefly joined S.H.I.E.L.D., and eventually returned to the X-Men only to step away after Colossus' death. Which happens a lot. He's like willing to die a lot. She tried living normal in Chicago, attending university, but tragedy and anti-mutant violence kept pulling her back in. Over time, Kitty served as a teacher, a team leader, a cosmic hero fused to a bullet, a guardian of the galaxy, even Star-Lord herself. She saved entire planets, fell in and out of love with Peter Quill, led the X-Men, survived reality rewrites, and endured Krakoa's rise and fall. On Krakoa, unable to use the mutant gates, she reinvented herself as Kate Pryde, becoming the captain of the Marauders, Red Queen of the Hellfire Trading Company, and a member of the Quiet Council. After being murdered and resurrected, she and Emma Frost took brutal revenge on Sebastian Shaw. Later, after Orcus devastated mutant kind, Kate became a darker Shadowcat, running Black Ops missions. When it was finally over and Orcus was defeated, a tired Kate Pryde walked away from it all once again, returning to Chicago, the place that always felt like home. Trying to get away from the mutant life, she wanted to live a more normal life, but when the mutant life calls, you have to answer. This is where she and Emma Frost mentor young mutants to combat them from a mutant-hating world. So, that is Kitty Pryde, Kate Pryde, Shadowcat, whatever she's going by these days, that is her. So, that is my breakdown of Kitty Pryde, who I love and adore. I hope you enjoyed this episode. I hope you learned something, and I hope you will like and subscribe so you can see more of stuff I put out. With that being said, have a marvelous day.